Hello, welcome back to Analyzing the Magnus Protocol. We are together again for this episode. Hopefully for the other ones continuing after this as well, of Season 2. Today, we are, of course, covering Mag Protocol Episode 33, Peer Review, this is the first time in Season 2 that we're getting a guest writer.
I just got that pun.
Peer Review?
Yeah,
oh,
it took a while.
Yeah. But yeah, first guest writer, Aaron Blayton, who we haven't had a guest writer since Mag Episode 23 or 26, so it's been a hot minute, but I'd say a pretty good story case.
Yeah, I like this one a lot.
This one's pretty good. And then, of course, script was edited by Johnny Sims and Alexander J. Newell as always. So, without all of that, subscribe, go check out the links in the description to this. Go listen to this before you go do that.
Pay attention to the poem in the beginning.
So we boot up at a computer. Celia is there. And in the manager's office, muffled, we hear Alice and Gwen yelling at each other over an argument that's seemingly been happening for a bit at this point. Celia, getting fed up, then starts up the computer, which initiates Chester to start reading a sort of transcript of an interview of like some sort of report at the Magnus Institute, Manchester. Very interesting. There's one thing that I will bring up later, that, quote, statement in research led for location CD77-1, which is something I'm going to bring up later when we talk about the theories, I suppose. We also, the interviewer comments were redacted at the request of Dr. Welling. We've heard of this guy before in Mag 17 and 28. He's the same guy who was either the leader or a part of the Welling Materia research program, the big dome thing.
The big dome.
The big dome, because...
the dome.
The dome thing. Because it was, January of 1998, Welling and his team's calculations showed that the Millennium Dome, built by the Magnus Institute, had transformative properties. Welling argued that the Millennium's significance as a psychological focal point amplified its power. His calculations suggested that the dome would generate both optimism and despair. Which, again, interesting stuff. Normal things, yeah.
Them do that.
And months later, in August of that same year, would be when Sam and the other two kids were traveling to the Magnus Institute to, the kid research program thing or whatever, and that is when Sam would interrupt Dr. Welling doing his little experiment thing, and when his chant was going on, his bones started to move inside of his skin. Okay. So, Dr. Welling's an interesting guy. And that is when, we get this, like, one-sided interview, because the interviewer side is, like, all redacted. But this one-sided interview with a woman named Victoria Maracchio. Basically, she recounts an unsettling second date with James Dawn in Blackpool. They met online, and since she was temporarily working in the area, they decided to go out again after a great first date. They started with dinner and then walked along the pier, where James reminisced about his childhood, and he took her to a specific spot on the railing in which he tells her how basically he had his first kiss there. And however, when he pointed out to the coastline, all of the town lights were gone and replaced by a thick, unnatural shadow blocking that part of the shore.
Sounds like a fog. Magnus Archives?
Magnus Archives, maybe. Though James, dismissed it as just strange weather, Victoria was unnerved. Very much so. As you are. Earlier, they had passed a caricature artist in the arcade who gave James an oddly, intense look. So they decided to go to get a caricature done of themselves, because why not? Although they were interrupted by, a strange man at the entrance of the arcade who said, with an unsettling, enunciation in various words, quote, "Well, don't you two make a darling pair?" Very weird enunciation.
Thanks, Johnny Sims, for reenacting that for us.
Spoken in a very unnatural way, they assumed that he was the artist, and they just entered the arcade. And then they started to just chase each other, weirdly enough, just playing around, I suppose. When James...
The Velociraptor impersonations.
The Velociraptor impersonations. I was so confused. It just, I started laughing at that. James accidentally bumped into a woman carrying food, spilling a hot dog and drink all over her. And
they apologized. And she's just like, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Very unnerving. They apologize because what else do you do in that very awkward situation? But again, this woman is just unnerved, not really seeming like she doesn't even know what's going on.
Yeah, she's smiling a lot.
Very big toothed smile.
Yeah.
So they then just walk away after that. Victoria and James then try to brush it off, deciding to reset the mood on the Ferris wheel. However, as they approached it, they found it had been completely shut down, and the lights in the area were roped off, despite just being operational minutes before. It is then that they noticed that the mist around them has just thickened, casting eerie colors through the arcade lights. They decided to return inside for hot chocolate, but when they re-entered, that same strange man greeted them again like they had just seen him for the first time.
Door.
Yes, and it's a different door of the building.
Guy,
same guy, different door. Says the same line. Well, don't you two look like you make a darling pair? And
the arcade is wrong.
The archives. The archives. The arcade is just wrong. There's nothing right about it. They see also the same woman and her shirt still stained and her grin has unchanged.
Yeah.
The pier outside has grown even darker with half of the lights out and the only one flickering. The sea below roars, shaking the wood of the pier, and the land seemingly had vanished. The pier stretched to an impossible void, and the shadow from earlier loomed ever larger.
And it was not fog.
It wasn't fog. It was something.
She clarifies. She says it's not fog.
Not fog.
Yeah.
Then, panicked, she tries pointing all of this weird oddity stuff to James, who just tries to ignore it.
He tries to keep going, getting her to go back and do the caricature thing again, go to the gift shop.
Mm-hmm. And he is also just distressed. She tells it on his face that he clearly knows this is happening, but he's trying not to
Yeah. He looks worried. I don't know if he is he knows what's going on, but he's outwardly trying
to be normal.
I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Very weird stuff going on. It's weird stuff. Not missed. He, as she tries to go away, though, he grabs her arm, basically saying that, please, don't go. We're having such a lovely time. There's nothing wrong. And as this looming shadow draws closer, Victoria begs him to run, but instead he just pulls her in, whispering please, it's okay, tell me it's okay.
We're having such a fun time.
We're having such a fun time. But then she doesn't, she gets free. She breaks off from him and just runs into this darkness.
Yeah, and she can hear screaming behind her.
Yeah, he's gonzo, like Mr. Bonzo, as they say. She then reached for her phone to try and pull up the flashlight, but her battery's just dead, and something hits, a deafening knocks her to the ground, shaking the entire pier, and when she looks back, she just sees nothing. There is darkness, there is a void. James is gone. And then eventually she sees lights on the shore again, runs towards them, and no reports of the pier being destroyed ever exist. James is missing. She files a report for him, and there's just no answers, and no one believes her story. And she's basically she was either pulled into the institute, went there to try and explain some things. Who really knows?
And now the spooky part happens.
Yeah.
She asks the interviewer to not go, and then it ends there, so we can kind of guess what happened.
Yeah, this ever cycle of not going.
Okay, OAR time.
OAR, back in the OAR. So back to Celia's desk. Alice just slaps a notebook on her desk. Asking her if she could help, as it's Colin's notebook, written in German and computer code and weird ciphers. Alice, not really knowing what to do, just asks Celia if you know any of that to try and help.
It's a combination of all three from what they can tell.
Mm-hmm.
And Alice at one point mentions that Colin's probably trying to hide his dentistry notes.
Celia then says that Alice is starting to sound like Colin, after which Celia says that, she'll figure it out one way or another. And Alice just responds to Celia saying that being like him might help in this situation, which no, we don't lose Alice. But then again, I don't know, is Colin alive? Last episode we see hands popping out of the computers and getting slurped back in, so who knows? And then we cut to the landline in the manager's office. Gwen is basically on the phone trying to get a hold of Lena by essentially lying to some, government people, basically saying that she's she's a recently dismissed employee and that she has to forward mail to her, which we get a Freddy lying detector from that. Gwen, also says that after listening to the other person on the line a bit, that she's not trying to ask you to break a general data protection regulation, which Freddy again. Gwen, her little plan doesn't really work. She says, she just hangs up basically after very sincerely apologizing or thanking them for their help or whatever. And then we get an American walking in the door.
His first name is Brett. I don't have a last name anywhere.
Brett Lars.
Brett Lars. Okay.
Yes, who is voiced by Mike Toms. I didn't find anything on Mike Toms if he's voiced anything in archives before, so... but no, he's an American, and he says he just walks into the manager's office, saying that the lady at the desk said you were in charge. Gwen, being just genuinely surprised, tries to give a best impression at being an authority figure, which doesn't work out very well.
She's trying her best.
She tries her best.
She's just a little wannabe manager.
Little wannabe manager.
Okay.
She asks who the guy is, and he responds with Brett Lars, saying that they had an appointment with Gwen, and Gwen just basically saying, we do? Who are you? I don't know. Basically kind of lying with another Freddy, saying that, my calendar must have been messed up from my assistant.
Thank you, Freddy.
Freddy. You lie detector, you. Gwen also, asking Brett, what exactly are we here to discuss? With Brett saying, quote, I believe you said something about budget adjustments and reconsidering whether Starkwall had anything to offer the OIAR in terms of security services, unquote. So, this is where I got my notes. So, just basic brief history of Starkwall Protection Services. Starkwall was responsible for burning down the Magnus Institute in 1999 on behalf of the OIAR at William Price, the manager of the response department for the OIAR. He was in contact with Starkwall, and 10 days later, the OIAR announced that it was no longer associated with Starkwall. And prior to that, Starkwall had provided OIAR with security, although they were described as having a tendency to escalate things in certain situations. Later in 2016, a security firm that was likely Starkwall also had burned down the Oxford People's Trust shop in the Hilltop Center after it was the site of a supernatural incident. And then they were also involved with something called the San Pedro Square Massacre, although it is unclear whenever that occurred. But there is a theory that I saw, and that makes a little sense to me, that it could be that San Pedro Square could be the one in San Jose, California, which is a history district, and it is the oldest building in the Peltera abode, built in 1797 by the founders of the city. Which could be connected, could be not. He is American, so who knows. Starkwall's burning down of the various locations is likely related to whatever the protocol is that we've heard throughout the latter half of season 1. The said protocol that was discussed by Robert Hooke and Robert Boyle in, I think, one of the later episodes of season 1. I don't exactly remember. But anyways, Gwen then says that this meeting is purely exploratory and says that the security arrangements are satisfactory. Freddy.
She basically talks to Lars, and Lars goes, I just walked in here and someone let me, and I don't think that's very secure.
Yeah.
It's a great move for the AOR.
Great for that.
Yeah.
And then Gwen retorts that, we could just put new locks and do more training for that, to which Brett responds, but that isn't going to help with off-site security, is it? To which Gwen says that they have other assets at their disposal. And then this is when Brett says that he basically, he warned Lena about using the unpredictable external agents. And he thought it was a bad idea then, and it's a bad idea now. Gwen, surprised that he knows about the externals, kind of just plays it smooth.
You don't want Mr. Bonzo protecting the OAR from trespassers? Or Mr. Bonzo?
Or needles? Or Inksel?
Would you like to cuddle?
Would you like to? You're walking up to a club or something, and the bouncer there is just covered in needles, and it's like, you're not allowed in. You want a hug? Gwen basically says that it's not ideal, but Starkwall has been known to increase various precarity in very few situations over the years. Brett admits that, in theory, their record is not spotless, but that working in dangerous situations with incomplete intel and unreliable allies is rough, but that's essentially the norm for the OIAR, and Starkwall has never left a job unfinished. Because they burn it.
Yep.
Brett continuing to say that there could be a bright future if they did work together. Gwen responding, a future for you, perhaps. To which Brett says, quote, and a secure one for you and your team. We can protect you from whatever comes your way. I guarantee it. And we hear another Freddy buzz. Gwen then saying that, she'll have to decline the offer regardless. Brett gives her his card saying that, just contact if you reconsider, or we could do a little, free trial thing. To which he also then says, oddly enough, that he never noticed how big the office was when, he last spoke to Lena. To which Freddy also buzzes lie detector about that. Very, very weird, very interesting. But, Gwen, responds that, he can find his own way out the door. And that's the episode. Not a whole lot, but really good.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
My thoughts. I really like boats. Therefore, I really like the ocean. Therefore, I really like piers. And having this episode based around a pier is quite exciting in my...
Pier review.
Very monumental, and I got that pun 20 minutes ago. But I really liked it. Very classic. I know this relates in some way to the theory you have of alchemy, but also a special place in my heart for the lonely, and piers and oceans, therefore boats.
Yeah, I have here, I'm stealing the exact words from someone online that I saw with a little theory about this, because I just like the word of it. In Smirkian terms, elements of the lonely, vast, dark, and stranger, all make an appearance in this, and that all the fears have likely bled into this world's existing powers, but not evenly, at least. Because again, we see...
I really like that theory, I think.
Yes.
She's definitely the stranger.
Yeah, stranger, the weird arcade people, dark of just... darkness, not the absence of knowledge sort of thing. Vast, just big open spaces, and lonely, mist. But again, as I discussed with Hazel earlier, a theory that I also saw and that I also really like is, again, everything in Protocol is alchemy. So, one of the big four elements of alchemy is, of course, earth, wind, fire, and water. We saw Earth sort of last episode, episode 32, with this woman basically being possessed or recounting the tale of the land and over, industrialization and how it killed the land basically, and the land reclaimed all that back. This time again, we see a lot with the ocean and water and emptiness. And again, the previous season 1 episode with the guy who just wants to get back in the ocean, who just really wants to go to the And then another thing that they said was Starkwall and fire, burning everything down could be another thing. Air, we'll see if that ever gets brought up into this. But again, another cool theory to tie into the alchemy of whatever that means in, again, these existing powers within the protocol universe, or in the just fear being pushed into there wherever it can.
R.I.P. Church of the Lightless Flame, you would have loved having legal permission to burn stuff down so much.
Jude Perry would love to have permission to burn stuff down. What are some other notes? Brett, American Eagle Screech.
Is he American?
Yeah, he's American.
Okay.
He's American. He's an American VA, and his accent sounds American. I can't tell accents much, but
I'm saying that because he doesn't sound Californian. If he's supposed to
maybe not Californian as like me bringing up that earlier, but like
he could move there.
He could move there, anyways.
Okay.
But then yes, going back on another thing, at the like top of when Chester started reading, he talked about statement and research lab location for CD771, which assumably could be the Magnus Institute in Manchester, because maybe had multiple locations in this universe. Because of course in Archives universe, the main awful man Jonah Magnus, the institute was initially in Manchester until he moved it over the ruins of the Millbank prison, because Panopticon, because Panopticon, he had his reasons, but also why not? So who knows? Multiple locations in this. Maybe we'll see something soon. Also, yeah, again, excited. We got more information on Starkwall, and I'm excited to see where that goes. But anyways, this has been Analyzing the Magnus Protocol, episode 32, peer review. Hopefully we will be together again for episode 34 when that drops.
Do another peer review.
Ha! If you would be so kind to leave a like and subscribe, or comment any of your theories down below, that would be appreciated. I guess we will see you all next time for Mag Protocol episode 34 when that comes out next week, hopefully.